Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support in helping our channel grow. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, so please support us by subscribing and helping us reach this milestone. Now let's start the story. Flashback. Masha, another day with Tina. I cannot believe the entire morning was gone. Taking care of Tina was one of the worst mistakes I had ever made, one which I planned to rectify tonight. But the current problem is what to make for lunch. I checked the freezer and found some frozen meals which said they were organic. I checked the ingredients and found they were not too bad and did not contain any added sugar. I took 2 of the meals from the freezer and put one in the microwave and began to heat it. Linda came into the kitchen and toddled to her high chair. I picked her up, checked her diaper, determined she was fine, so I sat her in the high chair and said, "Lunch will be soon." Then I realized I hadn't heard anything from Tina. I rushed to Jack's workroom, opened the door, and found it a disaster. Tina had made poop, pulled off her dirty diaper, and smeared the poop everywhere. It was on the walls, the door, even in the rug, and of course all over herself. I knew it would take me hours to clean the room. Plus the smell was worse than ever. Linda began to cry in the kitchen, and I recognized her hunger cry. I scooped up the filthy Tina, ran into the bathroom, put her into the bathtub, and ran back into the kitchen. I pulled the food out of the microwave, made sure it was not too hot, and set it in front of Linda. Linda began to eat, while I ran back to the bathroom to take care of Tina. I got into the bathroom just in time to see Tina trying to turn on the water. I was angry, so I slapped her hand and scolded, "Bad girl." She of course began to cry. I ran water in the tub at the proper temperature and once again roughly scrubbed her, which increased her crying, but I no longer sympathized. I dried her with another new towel, then put a fresh diaper on her. I no sooner got the diaper on her when I heard an explosion from her behind, and she began to giggle. I checked, and of course Tina had made poop again. So it was back into the bathtub for a new bath, then another new towel, and then, oh no, this was her last clean diaper. Thank God she did not dirty this diaper immediately. I set her on the floor, and she dashed toward the kitchen with me following her. She ran up to Linda's high chair and began to shake it, which frightened Linda, and Linda then began to cry. I roughly grabbed Tina, set her in her high chair, made sure to wash and sanitize my hands, and then put the second meal in the microwave. Tina was shaking her high chair so hard, it began to tip over. I ran and caught her before the chair hit the floor. Tina was now scared and began to cry, so I tried to comfort her. Linda announced, "Done now." I determined that Linda had done an excellent job of eating and hardly made a mess. I took Linda out of her high chair, replaced her with Tina, and took Linda into the bathroom to clean her up. As I cleansed Linda, I heard a noise from the kitchen, so I finished with Linda, rushed into the kitchen, and realized I had forgotten the rest of Linda's food on her high chair. Tina had taken the rest of the food and somehow splattered it across most of the kitchen, and then put the plate on her head and smeared it all over herself. I took several calming breaths and finally said, "Okay, Tina, no food for you today." The microwave dinged. I removed my food, sat at the table, and began to eat. Tina saw me eating and began to cry, but in response I turned away from her and ignored her. Linda came beside me, so I picked her up, sat her on my lap, and we finished my meal together. Tina continued her wailing, and I had finally suffered enough. I put Linda on the floor, went to the collected bags of baby food which were still on the counter, searched through them, found all the fruit I could, put it all in a big bowl, sat it in front of Tina, and said, "Enjoy yourself, you spoiled brat." I was shocked at how fast Tina attacked the fruit. She was not only using the spoon, she used her other hand to shovel it into her mouth. In no time at all the big bowl was empty, and once again Tina began to cry. I could not believe that she was still craving sugar. I told Tina, "You are out of luck, there is no more fruit in the house." I took her out of the high chair, then into the bathroom, washed her hands and face, and had no idea what to do with her. I couldn't put her in Jack's workroom since it was still covered in poop. Linda was busy playing in her and Louise's room, and I sure wasn't going to put her in my bedroom. I decided that Linda's high chair was the best place for her because she couldn't escape or tip it over. I cleaned up the lunch dishes, looked at the kitchen, and made a decision. I called Louise at work. Louise came on the phone and asked, "Hey Annie, Masha, what do you need?" I replied, "Louise, today has been terrible, so could we possibly have pizza for dinner tonight?" Louise queried, "What's going on?" I replied, "Tina has been impossible today." Then I described all that Tina had done so far and how I was out of diapers for her. Louise said, "Don't worry, Annie, Masha. I will have Brenda bring you some more diapers." I countered, "No, Louise. Don't have her bring any until tonight since I am too embarrassed at the condition of the house to let anyone else see it." Louise said, "Okay, pizza will be great for dinner, and I will tell Brenda that she's paying." I hung up the phone, put on some old clothes, and began to clean the kitchen first, and then I moved to Jack's workroom. I had barely finished when I heard the front door open and Louise yelled, "Masha, we're home." Linda ran out of their soon-to-be bedroom and yelled, "Mama, Mama, Mama," and promptly jumped into Louise's arms. Tina, who I forgot about and was still in the high chair, started to cry. I walked out of Jack's workroom with the bucket and all the cleaning supplies looking as if I had just run a marathon. Brenda rushed over to Tina while Louise took one look at me and said, "Annie, Masha, cheer up. The cavalry has arrived." Brenda started to scold me. "Masha, why wasn't Tina in clothes?" Louise saw the look on my face and thankfully interceded. "Brenda, back the hell off of my Annie Masha, or I will kick your butt." From what Annie Masha has told me, Tina has been a real little witch today. I had my 2 cents. "Brenda, you didn't leave enough clothes or diapers for Tina, and I just finished cleaning up the mess she made with her poopy diaper in Jack's workroom." I hear a new explosion emanate from Tina's diaper and secretly smile knowing that Brenda was going to get to deal with the mess I created from feeding Tina fruit over lunch. Brenda about made me nauseous when she praised Tina. "That's my good little girl." Then she asked, "Where's the changing table?" Louise answered, "It's still at my apartment." I added, "I used the floor after putting a towel down first." Brenda took Tina to Louise's room, put a towel on the floor, and said, "It's a good thing I brought more diapers for my good girl." Brenda no sooner got the diaper off Tina when she had another bout of explosive diarrhea and began to giggle. It covered Brenda and a portion of the room. Brenda swore, "You little bitch, you did that on purpose." Then she spanked the hell out of Tina's, but which was worse because there was still poop on her butt and it splattered around the room even more. Her spanking Tina was the, literally, that overflowed the cup, figuratively, final straw for this camel. I caught Brenda's arm in mid-swing as she was going to apply more spanking. I knelt, twisted it around behind Brenda's back, and said, "Brenda, I will not tolerate this child abuse in my house. Take Tina, leave and never come back." Louise added, "I can't believe you spanked Tina. You are a bad mother." Masha is correct. Get out of our house and never come back. Brenda grabbed Tina and said, "You two just don't know how to handle children." Louise, "Wait until Linda is a teenager. She's going to get pregnant just like you did." I couldn't control myself after an insult like that to Louise, so I slapped Brenda and ordered, "Leave my house now." Louise added, "And don't let the door hit your fat butt on the way out." Brenda threatened, "You haven't heard the last of me." I countered with a preemptive threat of my own. "If you do anything in retaliation, I will call Child Protective Services and file a complaint for your treatment of Tina." Gwen poked her head around the corner of the room and asked, "Is World War III over?" I promptly sat on the floor and began to cry while Louise and Gwen came over and comforted me. Flashback, Jack and Ben, after the mess hall. Son of a bitch, Colonel Maggie had given me something to think about. I never realized that if I became a DI, I would be stationed stateside and be with Masha. But damn it to hell, I couldn't just abandon Ben. I made a decision and headed toward CNC to talk to Ben. I got on the radio for the hospital and asked, "This is Sergeant Jack Reynolds. I need to talk with Sergeant Blaine." The Marine at the hospital replied, "Give me a few minutes to find him." A few minutes ended up being about 10 minutes until Ben finally said, "Hey Jack, how the hell are you doing?" I replied, "I'm sick and tired of doing the colonel's office work, and next week I start training the green recruits. From what I hear, you're doing a great job." Ben swore, "Shit, Jack. That's a news to me. George has become a repeater and calls Colonel Maggie about everything." I countered, "Well, Colonel Maggie sings your praises all the time, so don't let that scumsucker Butterbar get you down." Ben asked, "Look, Jack, I'm helping the CIA torture the scumsucker bomb maker, so I don't have much time to gab. What do you need?" I decided to bite the bullet and said, "Listen, Ben, Colonel Maggie said I could become a DI and get reassigned stateside. I was calling to see what you thought about it." I was shocked with Ben's response. Jack dropped a huge bombshell on me. He wanted to become a DI and head back to the States, leaving me without a spotter. I knew he wanted to be near Masha, but this was too much. I was tired as hell doing shit for the scumsucker Jack and Masha, so I erupted, "Jack, there's no way that I'm going to break in a new spotter." I heard Jack take a deep breath, and before he could say anything, I remembered a crucial detail and continued, "You know, Jack, I've changed my mind. Go ahead and take that DI job and head back to the States to be with Masha because my enlistment contract is up in about 2 weeks, and I'm not going to re-enlist." Jack asked, "They didn't have you re-up before you came over here?" I laughed and said, "Nope, someone, actually it was you, dropped the ball, and with you heading back to the States, I'm thankful for it." Jack warned, "Ben, don't go off half-cocked." I swore and said, "Screw it, Jack. Don't worry, because I'm going off full-cocked this time. Now I have to go and watch the CIA torture the hell out of this scumsucker bomb maker." I threw the mic down, looked at the radio operator, and asked, "Do you know where the lieutenant is?" He answered, "I think he's on the roof." I ran up to the roof, found George, and announced, "Sir, I am informing you that my enlistment contract is up in 2 weeks, and with Sergeant Reynolds heading stateside to be a DI, I am not going to re-enlist. George sputtered, what? Didn't they get you to re-up before you came over here? I laughed and said, nope, someone dropped the ball. You can call Colonel Maggie and inform her of my decision. George hightailed it downstairs, probably to call Colonel Maggie while I headed back to the CIA goons. When I walked into the room, the bomb maker was crying and spilling his guts. What I heard made me sick. Hell yeah, it was time to get the hell out of this country. I was in shock from Ben's response because I didn't think he would mind. I never realized how attached he had become to me. It made me feel good and bad at the same time. I headed back to Colonel Maggie's office. Colonel Maggie's aide cautioned before I walked in. Jack, I don't know what the hell you did, but the Colonel is more pissed off than I've ever seen her. She's been swearing up a blue streak, and it all involved your name. I steeled myself, walked into her office. She saw me, stood up and glared. Sergeant Jack Reynolds, do you know what the hell you've done? I paused and asked, is this about Sergeant Blaine? She yelled, of course it is. What the hell are you doing? I tried to reply, but Colonel Maggie continued. You really screwed the pooch on this one, calling Sergeant Blaine and telling him you're going to become a DI and head stateside. But even worse, you didn't make sure he had re-enlisted before he came over here. I tried to open my mouth to defend myself, but Colonel Maggie continued. Sergeant Reynolds, you created this problem, so you can figure out a way to fix it. Now get out of my office until you figure out a solution. I didn't wait and hauled out of her office. Her aide shook his head as I ran past and said, lots of luck, Sergeant Reynolds. I headed back to the mess hall, and the bad news had already preceded me. I walked in. John came up to me and said, Jack, what did you do to Colonel Maggie? I waved him off and said, John, I just need a cup of coffee to help me think. I grabbed a cup of coffee, and this time no one waved me toward their table, which was fine. I needed to think anyway. I finally decided I needed to talk to Ben again, so I headed toward the CNC. Flashback? Ben, looking forward to heading home. After the CIA agents got everything they could out of the scumsucker bomb maker, the main agent looked at me and asked, if we call in a striker and air support, would you take us to his workshop? I congratulated them. Good job on breaking him, but I wish I could have seen all of it. Sure, I'd be more than happy to take a little ride to whatever's left of his workshop. Then I asked, what are you going to do with him? The second agent grinned and replied, don't worry, he's going to get his just desserts. Then he shocked him with the taser until he passed out to emphasize the point. We headed to the hospital CNC, and the radio operator said, Sergeant Reynolds is on the radio for you. I glared at him and said, tell that worthless shit I'm going out on a mission and call me back in about 3 hours. The radio operator cleaned up the message and relayed it. Then the main CIA agent took over and called for a striker and air support. He turned and said, it will be about an hour before the striker gets here. I ordered the radio operator, call Sergeant Reynolds for me. He called the base and said, Sergeant Reynolds isn't there anymore. I laughed and said, we'll have someone drag his butt back to the CNC. I waited, and finally Jack got back on the radio. Flashback, Jennifer, after healing her mother. Daddy finally came into Mother's room, and I asked, Daddy, I'm hungry enough to eat a horse. Could we go get some food? Daddy smiled at me and replied, Jennifer, they're going to do some more tests on Evelyn, so I think it would be a great idea. Daddy took my hand and continued, Jennifer, I don't want you blaming yourself for your mother's heart attack. From talking with the doctor, he told me it was probably the results of her drinking problem. He feels she has alcoholic cardiomyopathy. I squeezed Daddy's hand and said, Daddy, I think Mother will be fine. In fact, I think we will have another miracle like my miracle. Daddy cautioned, Jennifer, don't get your hopes up. As you know, Evelyn has been drinking hard for many years, so the damage has been done. I teased Daddy a little. Daddy, it seems to me that you drink hard too? Daddy pretended a threat. Keep it up, Jennifer, and I won't buy any food for you. I was really hungry, so I appeased Daddy and continued our role-playing. Sorry, Daddy. I really need something to eat, and if you won't buy me the food, I guess I will have to wash the dishes to get the food. Daddy practically exploded. No daughter of mine will do dishes for food. We finally arrived at the cafeteria, and Daddy said, feel free to eat as much as you want. It was buffet style, so I grabbed a tray, a plate that I made sure was clean, and began to load more food on the plate than I had ever eaten. Daddy was following me and commented, Jennifer, I hope you know you have to eat all that food. I smiled at Daddy and teased, gee, can I go back for seconds? Daddy teased right back, I guess having Daniela at the house has affected your appetite. I countered, Daddy, are you saying that Daniela's food tastes like hospital food? Daddy quickly backed up, Jennifer, I never said that, and will categorically deny saying that if you mention it to Daniela. We headed to the table, prayed, and began to eat. It was so good to finally get some food because I was famished from helping Mother. Flashback, Alexei, out for dinner. We did not converse during the rest of the meal because I could tell Father was thinking. We finished and headed home. Father put the car in the garage and then began to search the garage for something, so I asked, "Father, what are you looking for?" He replied, "Alexei, I know I have some old fishing equipment in here somewhere. I want to find it for tomorrow." I began to help him search when finally Father yelled, "Eureka! Here's most of it." I went over, looked at the equipment, and was not impressed. It looked very old and worn out. However, I knew better than to express these feelings to Father. We headed into the house, and I did ask, "Father, where will we go fishing tomorrow?" He scratched his head, as he often did when he thought, and replied, "Alexei, I'm not sure, so I think I will look at a map." We went into the house where Father found the maps of the area and began to scan them. I asked, "Are you looking for a lake or a river?" Father said, "Lakes are easier to fish in, and there's no chance of falling in and getting swept away." I professed a knowledge I did not possess, but "Father, I heard the fishing is better in rivers." Father gave me a strange look, then said, "Okay, Alexei, a river it is." We both looked at the map and finally found a suitable river. Flashback, Mira and Ira, continuing. I awakened before Ira, nudged her and complained, "Ira, my olfactory senses perceive that you are extremely odoriferous. Perhaps you should cleanse your corporeal self." Ira surprised me with her vitriolic response. "Miranda, your corporeal self has acquired the stench of the Ursa Arctos on which you located your derriere last night. You need to cleanse your corporeal self and outer accoutrements." I giggled and replied, "Ira, my sister, you were inebriated last night and imagined my encounter with an Ursa Arctos." Ira countered, "Miranda, do you not remember our conversation about a walking couch?" I shrugged my shoulders and postulated, "Ira, there was no such conversation. You were obviously influenced by the massive quantity of vodka you imbibed." Ira sighed and responded, "My sister, come. We will both locate a river and cleanse ourselves." I followed Ira out of the cave. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. I had some concerns about Maria and Gail since they were both too trusting for my liking. They had both gone back upstairs, so I walked over to Roberto, pulled out my tablet, and wrote, "Roberto, do you know of any more bodyguards looking for work?" Roberto asked, "Are you looking for someone for Maria and Gail?" I nodded and he replied, "Senor, I know of several men, but I would not trust any of them with Maria or Gail." I wrote on the tablet, "Why is that?" He replied, "Senor, the men here are very machismo and would attempt to take advantage of Maria and Gail. No, I cannot think of anyone I could recommend." That concerned me, so I wrote, "Roberto, I am concerned that they are both too trusting of others. If I had not stopped it, they would have eaten the cookies which could have been drugged. Do you have any idea of what I can do to protect them better?" Roberto pauses for a few moments, then he suggested, "Senor, since I am currently working for you, I could come by after work and give them security lessons." I continued to write, "Roberto, do you know martial arts?" He laughed and said, "Senor, the gymnasium here has free classes in martial arts." I thought and wrote, "Before they come down in any more of their new clothes, I would like to take a trip to the gymnasium and talk to the sensei." Roberto grinned and said, "Yes, senor, it is wise not to see them in their bikinis. I will tell them where we are going." Roberto yelled up the stairs, and together we left for the gymnasium. Present, Jens, Ben, and others, the trip. I can't believe Ben. He really, well, I'm not going to describe what he did to me. You will have to use your imagination, but it was fantastic. I walk out into the main area and demand, "I would like one of my manipeds now." Once again, Mira and Ira combine their answers, with Mira starting, "Sorry, Ms. Blaine, but this," Ira finishes, "is still our reading time. Besides, why would we give the manicure and pedicure to you when it was Mr. Blaine who defeated us?" Ben finally comes out of the bedroom and says, "Well, I sure as hell don't want a manicure or a pedicure, so they might as well go to my lovely wife." The girls answer with Ira starting, "Mr. Blaine, we never had." Mira completes, "That agreement with you. We did not pursue such an agreement because we knew you would not want a manicure or pedicure." I ask, "So then what did my husband win?" This time only Ira replies, "Our admiration. However, Ms. Blaine, should you desire a rematch, we both would enjoy a manicure and pedicure." Mira quickly agrees, "Yes, Ms. Blaine, that would be a good use of your time." I answer with a hint of sarcasm, "Heck no, I don't want to interrupt your sacred reading time." Mira asks, "Ms. Blaine, we are not currently reading the Bible, so why do you call our reading time sacred?" I look at Ben, who rescues me by saying, "Mira and Ira, Jens was being sarcastic. She was implying that your life is so structured that you have set times for things like martial arts practice and reading." Jens was fighting a disagreement with the girls which she wasn't going to win, so I tried to help her by explaining sarcasm to the girls. They both answer with Mira starting, "Mr. Blaine, while your life is more structured than Ms. Blaine's, you also could benefit from our example." Ira finishes, "Yes, Mr. Blaine, our schedule is designed to maximize the use of the non-sombolytic time during each day." I smile at the two of them and reply, "Sorry, Mira and Ira, I enjoy my life. When Jens and I were Marines, We lived a very structured life, mostly directed by others, and now we enjoy the freedom of doing whatever we want, whenever we want. Ira complains, Mr. Blaine, that is such a waste of your potential. I interrupt. But Ira, it's my potential, and if I want to waste it, then that is what I will do. The girls put down their books, and Mira announces, reading time is now terminated. Ms. Blaine, would it be possible to contact Alexei on the communications system? Ira finishes. Yes, we question progress on his health, and would like to verify his healing. Mira adds, plus the time for Safia's download of the fetus is close. Jens replies, I still cannot believe the structured life the girls lead. So, I can't resist getting in one more dig when I ask, is this your allotted time for communication? They both giggle, and Ira says, Ms. Blaine, now that we understand your sarcastic attitude, we realize that you are taunting us. Mira finishes. Ms. Blaine, we do not have an allotted time for communication. This is our allotted free time, during which we both desire to use to contact Alexei. However, perchance you are correct. Perhaps we should allocate time during the day for communicating with Alexei. Ben adds his 2 cents. Yeah, I'd like to talk to Tom and see how things are coming with the cabin. I walk over to the communications console, set up the connection to Gretchen in the tunnels, and ask, Hi Gretchen, how are things going? Gretchen replies, things are fine here. Linus worked on the Trojan virus and ran into a dead end. I queried, what happened? Gretchen explained, apparently they had a kill switch in the virus which was activated. It not only deleted the virus, it made the system unbootable. And before you ask, yes, we did try using the infected copy of the OS, and the first time it connected to the internet, the exact same thing happened. I reply, well, that's too bad, only because it would have been nice to figure it out. Ira and Mira would like to talk to Alexei, and then Ben would like to talk to Tom. Gretchen says, I will call Alexei. However, Ben will have to wait because Tom's not here right now. He's in Leadville making up with Inga. By the way, you guys probably missed the news. Samantha Stevens and Adele Arakawa got in the knockdown, drag-out fight when they covered the destruction of your motorhome by the terrors. I chuckle and ask, who won the fight? Gretchen says, Samantha did, of course. You should check it out. It's being rebroadcast. Alexei arrives and begins to talk with Mira and Ira. I kibitz just enough to make sure he's still healed because his healing was very difficult. That reminds me of Yasmin and Zarika. I figure they've had enough torture, so I end the formication spell I put on them. Besides, it was getting expensive keeping them in the clinic while the therapists try to find out what was wrong. Present, Samantha and Stacy. Stacy is a repeater. It felt good to kick that Arakawa bitch's butt. She had it coming along with the added insults. I was finished and was going to start my coverage when Stacy came over. She says, Samantha, I'm not sure how you knew, but there are no bodies on the motorhome. I look at her and ask, how do you know? Bill walks up and says, I asked the FBI agents in charge of the scene. I complain, I sure wish I could get information like that handed to me on a plate like you did. Bill continues, Ms. Stevens, if you were a former military operative, they would give you that information? Vic walks up, is dirty as hell, grins at me and says, it was good to see you kick that fat bitch's butt. Bill looks at Vic and asks, did you verify the information? Vic says, how else did you think I got so dirty? I ask, verify what? Vic replies, the FBI agent's statement that there were no bodies on the motorhome. I look at the still smoldering motorhome and ask, you went inside that mess? Vic says, no, I didn't have to, just close enough to give it a good smell and to take a good look inside. Once you've smelled burnt bodies, you never forget the smell, and there were no corpses on that motorhome. From what Inga had told me, I was sure that was the case. The problem was now I needed to report it. I decided to call Liz first. She answers her mobile phone and says, Samantha, that was a great fight with the Arakawa bitch, and your comments almost caused me to go into labor. I apologized, sorry about that, Liz. Liz replies, Samantha, I'm not complaining. She had it coming. So what do you need? I reply, Liz, there are no bodies on the motorhome, and Bill interrupts. The FBI agents say they all escaped before the terror attack. I continue my conversation with Liz. Liz, the FBI agents say that Ben and the others escaped before the terror attack. Liz orders, so Samantha, once again you have information the other stations don't. Do the report with your information and embarrass the hell out of them because they've been crying about the death of Ben and Jens. I look at John and say, we're making this a live broadcast, so let's roll it. John aims the camera at me. The red light on the camera comes on, and I begin. Hello, America. This is Samantha Stevens reporting for the Truth Network at the site of Ben and Jennifer Blaine's motorhome that was attacked by terrorists. Unlike the other networks that have prematurely issued condolences for America's sweetheart's death, I'm pleased to announce the truth. And the truth is, by some miracle, Ben, Jennifer, and their twin bodyguards escaped the motorhome before the terror attack. This is verified information from some operatives that work closely with the Truth Network. Thank you, America, for taking the time to listen to this special report. The Arakawa bitch comes over, and I notice John still has the camera running. She complains, Samantha Stevens, how can you justify that lie? I grin at her and taunt. Unlike your network, which thrives on sensationalism, our network thrives on truth in reporting, hence our name, the Truth Network. Before you prematurely announced the demise of Ben and Jennifer, you should have had your people check the facts. If you had talked to the FBI agents, you would have determined the motorhome contains 0 bodies. You know, sort of like the contents of your head contain 0 brains. The Arakawa bitch takes a swing at me, so I do a palm strike to her nose and blood flies everywhere. She falls to the ground and complains, I think you broke my nose. John shuts off the camera and I reply, and the Truth Network just live broadcast your attack on me. I would say you're up shit creek without a paddle. John notices an FBI agent headed our way, so he puts the camera on his shoulder and begins to broadcast. The agent walks up to the Arakawa bitch on the ground and announces, I saw that unprovoked attack on Ms. Stevens, so I'm arresting you. She's covered in blood, but it still doesn't stop her from complaining as the agent puts handcuffs on her. Present, Bernie, Liz, and the others, at the cabin. We're watching the newest battle of the reporters being live broadcast on the Truth Network, and Liz excitedly yells, kick her, but Sam. I caution, Liz, don't get too excited. You know what the doctor said. Liz complains, Bernie, you get me more excited than this fight. I smile at her and state, yes, Liz, but that's a different sort of excitement. She won't calm down, so I grab the remote, turn of the TV, and then Liz really complains. Bernie is being a real shithead about me getting excited. Of course I'm excited. Adele Arakawa and I have had our share of disagreements through the years, and Samantha is finally doing what I wish I would have done years ago. When Bernie turns off the TV, I threaten, Bernie, you need to turn it back on, or it will be a very long time before I do that thing for you. Bernie surprises the shit out of me when he counters, okay, then I guess we will have to cancel our wedding. I stutter, what? What wedding? Bernie explains, Liz, our wedding, of course. You've been so busy lately that I've taken it upon myself to plan our wedding. I ask, and when is this supposed wedding? Bernie floors me when he replies, 3 days from now. I vociferously complain, Bernie, I'm not ready and the wedding dress won't fit me. Bernie says, you mean the wedding dress that's at the tailor being altered? I look at the mannequin and notice the dress is missing and continue with the complaints. Bernie, how will they know the size? Bernie yawns and explains, no problem. I gave them your favorite maternity outfit. They will get the size from it. I begin to cry and ask, Bernie, are you serious? Are we really getting married in 3 days? Bernie affirms, yes, Liz, we are, if you still want to marry me. I forget about my threat to Bernie of not doing that thing again. In fact, I even forget all about Samantha and the Truth Network. Present, Inga and Tom at the restaurant. I needed to talk to Tom because I think I gave Samantha too much information about Ben and Jennifer, plus I wanted to see just how sorry he was. I still had feelings for him and still wanted him. Wanting him was terrible, and it was only because he never wanted me that I was interested in him. Vanity is a terrible thing, and I hate to admit that I am just as vain as most women. Tom arrives, I smile, wave at him and ask, have you eaten yet? Tom says, yeah, Mabel made a hell of a meal today, and I ate too much. I offer, would you like a cup of coffee? Tom says, Inga, you of all people should know better than to ask me that. You know I practically live on coffee. I bring him a cup and a cup for myself. Sit at the table, look at Tom, and begin, Tom. Tom interrupts. Inga, please let me go first. I need to apologize for you about finding me at Jennifer's with another woman. There was no excuse for my actions. All I can do is to beg your forgiveness. I reply, Tom, thank you for your heartfelt apology. I accept it. However, I might need forgiveness from you too. Tom gives me a puzzled look and asks, this is news. Inga needs forgiveness from me? What the hell for? I ask, Inga, I don't have any idea what you need to apologize for. Inga tells me about her conversation with Samantha as I fight to control my anger. I look up and see Samantha doing a report, shush Inga, and ask, can we turn up the volume? We hear Samantha tell everyone that Ben, Jennifer, and the twins had escaped from the destruction of the motorhome and how the information had come from the FBI agents. I silently swore since I didn't have my compatriots from the Marshal Service handle the motorhome scene. They wouldn't have spilled the beans. I look back to Inga and say, well, it looks like the cat is out of the bag anyway, so there's nothing to forgive. Inga smiles and says, thank you, Tom, for understanding about this. She starts to justify her actions. It was just that Samantha was so. I stop the justification and say, Inga, it really doesn't matter anymore what you said to Samantha. You're not the only one that dropped the ball, since the FBI agents never should have given out the information they did. So let's just forget about it. Inga smiles and says, thank you, Tom. Now how would you like to proceed about us? Tom says, Inga, like I said earlier, I think I'm too old for you, but let's start off slow and see what happens. Inga surprises me by saying, Tom, Stacy is going to open a theater in town. Would you like to attend the first show? I reply, watching movies is one of my favorite hobbies. Inga smirks, I know, that's why I asked you. Tom replies, good, then it's a date. I stand up to leave. Inga grabs me and gives me a big kiss which surprises the shit out of me. Flashback, Masha, another day with Tina. After having a terrible day with Tina, then slapping Brenda because of the insult she delivered to Louise, I had reached my limit for the day, so I sat on the floor and began to cry. Gwen, who had come in the room and asked if my problems with Brenda were over, and Louise began to comfort me. Louise asked, Any Masha, what's wrong? I sputtered, I failed. Tina defeated me today. Louise replied, Annie Masha, you didn't fail. Tina is a terrible, spoiled child. Gwen added, that's right. She always bullies the other children, and Brenda thought it was cute, so she did nothing to stop the bad behavior. Louise added even more information. Boy, that's the truth. And I'm amazed you lasted as long as you did with her. I sobbed some more and confess, Louise, I'm sorry for what Brenda said to you. And she did it in our house. Louise laughed and said, Auntie Masha, it's nothing I haven't heard before, so don't worry about it. Gwen offered, Masha, you've had a terrible day. Let me buy the pizza for tonight. Linda ran into the room and yelled, Mama, Mama, Mama. Then she performed a somersault on the floor. It was so funny I began to giggle. Louise handed Linda to me and said, Linda, Auntie Masha needs some loves. Linda begins to kiss me. It tickled, and I giggled some more. Louise said, Come on, Auntie Masha, we're hungry. I stand up with Linda. We walk into the kitchen and Gwen reaffirmed, I will order the pizza. What would you like for toppings? Louise declared, anything but anchovies. I teased, but anchovies are my favorite topping. Gwen shocked me and said, okay, half with anchovies for Masha and half without. I quickly confessed, I was teasing about the anchovies. How about the ham and pineapple, as we had the one time? Louise gasped, pretended to be shocked, and teased, Auntie Masha wants fruit on her pizza after telling Tina she shouldn't have fruit. Gwen called in the order for the pizza. I laughed and added, I need to confess, Tina's diaper was so evil tonight because I fed her all the baby food fruit which was left. I was just so tired of her constant complaining. She ate it like this. I mimed Tina using a spoon and her free hand to shovel the mixture to her mouth. Gwen and Louise laughed, and Gwen said, like mother, like daughter. I've seen Brenda almost shovel food in her gaping maw. That was news to me, so I asked, but she never seemed to eat much here. Louise said, Auntie Masha, she was just trying to avoid being embarrassed. Gwen added, that's right. You wouldn't believe how much she complained at work about how she was always hungry after she left here. She would stop by a fast food place on the way home and get more food to eat. I blinked and said, that's sucka. No wonder she was so fat. Louise asked, Masha, what's a sucka? I blushed and explained, it's Russian for bitch. Gwen and Louise laughed, and Louise commented, sucka. I sort of like that word. Gwen suggested, we could call Brenda that at work. Louise shot down the idea. Gwen, Brenda's really good on the computer, so she would put that into a translator and figure it out. Then of course she would run to Michael and tattle on us. I asked, will we have any problems with Michael concerning Brenda? Louise said, not at all. To be truthful, Auntie Masha, he's sort of afraid of you. I was shocked and replied, why would he be afraid of me? Gwen laughed and explained, Masha, you did destroy that teenage gang and then shot and killed the gang leader right here in your house. Besides, Michael is sort of a coward. Louise added, yeah, since you've been here, he's changed for the better. Especially after he found out I was moving in here with you. I asked, what sort of changes for the better? Louise said, well, before you showed up and we became friends, he sort of bothered me about dating him. Gwen added more information. Louise, you're right. He hasn't asked me on a date since. She paused, began to think, and Louise finished. Since we've become friends with Masha. Gwen nodded her head and affirmed, yeah, that's right. Thank you, Masha. Louise added, Gwen, you should have seen his eyes the other day when he saw me pretending to do Tebow back in the storeroom. They about popped out of his head. Gwen laughed and then asked, Masha, can Tebow be used in a fight? I replied, not really, but if you wanted to learn real martial arts, I could teach you Krav Maga. Gwen asked, is Craven Magoo any good? I giggled and said, it's Krav Maga, and it's the martial art which the IDF uses. Louise asked, what's the IDF? I had forgotten that neither of them had my training, so I said, IDF is Israeli Defense Force and Krav Maga is designed to counterattack your enemy. Louise piped up, I'm game. How about you, Gwen? Gwen replied, you can count on me being at every class. The doorbell rang. Louise checked and announced, the pizza's here. Gwen went to the door, paid for the pizza, and asked, are we having wine with this? I replied, no, Because we start your Krav Maga training tonight. Louise clapped her hands, which excited Linda, so she began to clap and said, "Great. I will gladly forego wine to learn a real martial art from my bad Auntie Masha." Flashback, Ben, still at the hospital. Since it was going to take an hour for the striker and air support to arrive, I decided to call Jack back to see what the old scumsucker wanted now. I also kicked the radio operator out of the room since I had learned he told everyone that I was leaving, and now all the men were upset as hell. He finally came back to the radio and said, "Ben, I'm sorry as hell for getting so upset earlier. I didn't think." I interrupted. "That's right, you didn't think. Jack, you might not know it, but I have no idea what in the hell I'm doing most of the time here. George gives me zero feedback on how I'm doing. The few words you said to me earlier were the only support I've received since becoming the first sergeant." Jack paused and said, "Ben, I will make sure Colonel Maggie kicks George in the butt and tells him to start letting you know how well you're doing. Now you can forget about me leaving. I've decided to stay as long as you re-enlist." I paused to think about the offer, and Jack asked, "Ben, are you still there?" I replied, "Yeah, Jack, I'm still here. I'm thinking about things." The CIA agent walked into the room and announced, "The striker is here." I told Jack, "Listen, we're taking a striker to the bomb maker's building to see if anything is left after we shelled the hell out of the building." Jack asked, "Who the hell is this we?" I laughed and said, "Me and the CIA agents, of course. We've become good friends. I'll give you a call when, or if I decide anything." I put down the mic, called the radio operator back into the room, and left with the CIA agents. I met George and suggested, "Sir, we could use a little distraction while we're getting into the striker. How about getting the snipers on the roof to dust things up some?" George said, "No problem." He called a corporal over and relayed the order. Once the firing on the roof started, we dashed to the waiting striker. Flashback, Jack, reporting to Colonel Maggie. I almost laughed when Ben said he was good friends with the CIA agents. It was amazing what that pallet of coffee did. I needed to make sure I remembered that. Well, at least I was going to Colonel Maggie's office with some ammo this time. I couldn't believe the butter bar wasn't relaying Colonel Maggie's praise to Ben. I was going to burn his, but for being an idiot. It's no wonder being called a butter bar isn't considered a compliment. I walked into the aide's office and asked, "Is she in a better mood now?" He said, "Yeah, I guess the CIA agents got a shitload of info out of the bomber. They relayed it back to HQ, so she's looking good to her bosses." I asked, "Please announce me." He called Colonel Maggie, then nodded at me. I walked in her office and she asked, "Well, Sergeant Reynolds, is Sergeant Blaine ready to re-enlist?" I glared at her as much as I dared to and said, "He said he would think about it. But after hearing how that lieutenant's been treating him, I think I might suggest that he doesn't re-enlist." I could tell I shocked Colonel Maggie when she demanded, "Are you telling me that the lieutenant hasn't relayed to Sergeant Blaine the hell of a job he's doing?" I replied, "That's right. In fact, sir, I think the lieutenant has become a glory hound, especially after hearing about how the CIA agents broke the bomber. Hell, Ben's headed out with them right now on a mission, and I'll be surprised if they don't offer him a job." Colonel Maggie shook her head and said, "Sergeant Reynolds, I had no idea this was going on. I've made sure to tell the lieutenant how great a job he's doing and how instrumental Sergeant Blaine has been to his success. I just assumed the lieutenant was telling Sergeant Blaine." She picked up her phone and yelled into the handset, "Get me the hospital on the line. I want to talk to the lieutenant." Unfortunately, Colonel Maggie covered the mouthpiece of the phone and said, "Sergeant Reynolds, you're dismissed." I left the office and found Tom, my new aide, waiting for me. I ordered, "Follow me." The poor fool stood up, tripped over his untied shoelaces, and fell to the floor. This wasn't going to be easy. Flashback, Jennifer, good news. We were eating in the cafeteria, but the food wasn't that good. I missed Daniela's cooking, but I was so hungry from healing Mother that I needed to eat. The doctor walked into the cafeteria, saw us, walked to our table, and said, "General Donaldson, we have some good news." I stopped eating to listen, and Daddy said, "Well, don't leave us hanging. Tell us the news." The doctor smiled and said, "General Donaldson, I've never seen this before, and we will need to run some more tests to make sure, but it appears as if Evelyn has been fully healed." Daddy asked, "Are you sure she had a heart attack in the first place? And what about the alcoholic cardiomyopathy?" The doctor assured him, "General Donaldson, she most certainly did have a heart attack. You were even in the ambulance with her and witnessed the ventricular fibrillation which occurred due to the heart attack. To be truthful, I've never seen anything like this before. However, we do need to deal with her drinking problem, which probably started the heart attack." Daddy asked, "Can we see her?" The doctor answered, "Most certainly." Then he asked a question that shocked me, "General Donaldson, has your wife ever had hallucinations?" Daddy replied, "Not that I have ever known of. Why do you ask?" The doctor replied, "She kept babbling something about your daughter and her mother being witches." Daddy looked at me and asked, "Jennifer, Has Evelyn ever called you a witch? I decided to play it cool, so I replied, Daddy, you know sometimes when she's angry at me she calls me all sorts of names. The doctor said, well, that makes me feel better, but try not to get her angry. Daddy looked at my plate of food, which I had only half finished, and suggested, Jennifer, why don't you stay here and finish your food while I talk with Evelyn? I gladly agreed. Okay, Daddy. Should I come to the room when I'm done? Daddy suggested, since we don't want to get your mother too excited, why don't you stay here for right now? I smiled and said, okay, Daddy, whatever you want. Daddy left, and I continued to eat. Flashback, General Donaldson, talking to Evelyn. I walked into Evelyn's room. She saw me, motioned me over, and complained, Glenn, this is your daughter's entire fault. I smiled innocently at her and asked, Evelyn, what are you talking about? She grabbed my uniform, shook me, and said, Jennifer, your daughter, is a witch. She did this to me. I smiled at my hysterical wife and tried to reason. Evelyn, how could Jennifer heal you? Evelyn interrupted me. Glenn, it's like I told you. She's a witch and Mother helped her. I continued to try to calm her. My love, I know that you've always had problems with your mother, but I can assure you, Jennifer is not a witch and it's not nice to call her one. But the great news is you are healed. Evelyn complained, Glenn, you don't understand that witches' healings always come with a price. I offered, well, my love, whatever the price is, I will pay it. I noticed the doctor has been standing by the door listening to the whole conversation. He motioned to me, so I said, sorry, Evelyn, I need to go. I walked out into the hallway with the doctor and he observed, see what I'm talking about, General Donaldson. Your wife has this idea in her head that your daughter and her mother are witches, which we all know is malarkey. I asked, so what should we do? The doctor said, I would like to keep her here and run some tests on her. I am wondering if she is having some mental problems from drinking too much. I complained, shit. So we're out of the frying pan and into the fire. The doctor cautioned, General Donaldson, it might not be that bad, so don't lose hope. I decided to head back to the cafeteria and pick up Jennifer. Flashback, Alexei, out for dinner. Father suggested, Alexei, we should leave early tomorrow to go fishing. I seem to remember that fish bite better in the morning. Therefore, we should go to bed early tonight. I smiled at Father and agreed, yes, Father, that's what I've heard also. Good night. Father complained, Alexei, no kiss for me tonight? I apologized, sorry, Father. It had been so long since we had been home. I had forgotten some of the good things about living here. I gave him a kiss, went to my room, closed the door, and recognized the sound of Father crying from his room. Flashback, Ira and Mira, continuing. The cave was conveniently located close to a stream, so we transversed close to the stream, removed our accoutrements, and cleansed ourselves in the frigid water. I suggested, Mira, we need to cleanse our clothing and dry them over a small fire in the cave. Mira agreed. Yes, my sister, you are correct. I am not sure what you did to my clothing last night, but my olfactory units tell me that they smell like the southbound end of a northbound jackass. I complained, Mira, your accoutrements are odoriferous because you placed your derriere upon the Ursa Arctos last night, mistaking it for a walking couch. Please tell me you have some recollection of this event. Mira replied, my sister Ira persists with the crazy tale about the Ursa Arctos last night. Therefore I humor her by lying. Of course, Ira, I remember everything about the prior evening. Ira suddenly swore, son of a female Saluki. Mira, defend yourself. Ira launched an attack upon my corporeal self, and we were occupied with the kerfuffle until there was a shot which roiled the water at our feet. Ira commanded, quick, grab your accoutrements and back to the cave. We rushed into the cave, located our weapons, and prepared to defend against the attack. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. Roberto yelled upstairs to the girls that we were going to the gymnasium, and we heard Maria complain, Todd, we were just coming down in our bikinis, can it wait? I shook my head and Roberto replied, no, we need to leave immediately. We rushed out the door, I made sure it was locked, noticed my neighbors were both outside, waved at them, and Roberto said, this way to the gym. As we walked through the community, I admired the houses. We hadn't gone very far when a security vehicle stopped. The guard exited the vehicle and asked, what are you two doing here? Roberto replied, this man lives here and I was just showing him the way to the gym. The security guard asked, why doesn't he tell me this himself? I slowly reached up, pulled down the shamak around my neck and pointed. He said, okay, climb in the back of the truck and I will take you to the gymnasium. Then we will verify your identity. We sit on the tailgate of the truck as he drives us to the gym, then he orders, both of you need to follow me into the office. He makes the rookie mistake of walking in front of us, something that I will complain about after he has verified who we are. He gets on the phone to the security building, talks to them. A fax comes into the fax machine. He looks at it and says, sorry about that. Welcome to our community, Todd. I pull out my tablet and write, You made a huge tactical mistake by letting us follow you into the building. I could have taken you down anytime I wanted. After we are finished talking with the martial arts sensei, I would like to speak with the head of security. The security officer complained. I highly doubt you could have taken me down. I grin at him and write. Then let's try it again. But this time you will have the advantage of knowing I'm going to attack you. We headed back outside, began to walk into the gymnasium. I slipped up behind the guard, took his weapon from his holster, and pressed it to the back of his head. He raised his hands and confessed, okay, I did make a mistake. However, I've never had a problem before. I handed him his weapon, he holstered it, and we walked inside. The sensei, dressed in a GI and sporting a black belt that displayed 4th degree, met us and commented, that was an excellent move you performed on the security guard. I have tried to illustrate the fallacy of letting their captives walk behind them. I bowed while watching the sensei, and Roberto said, this is Todd. He's new to the community and would like to know about your teaching methods. The sensei began, and it didn't take long until I was disgusted. Present, Jens, Ben, and others, the trip. The twins no sooner finish talking with Alexei when Gretchen says, Jens, Liz wants to talk to you. I ask Liz, how are you feeling, mother-to-be? Liz frantically replies, Jens, I'm going a little crazy because Bernie has our wedding set up for 3 days from now. I congratulate her. Liz, that's great news. I'm impressed that Bernie did everything himself. Liz confesses, well, he did hire a wedding planner, but there's a huge problem. I reply, it doesn't sound like there's any problem to me. Liz blurts out, Jens, I want you for my maid of honor. Ben hears Liz's request, walks closer, and says, Liz, that's not a problem, and we will both be at your wedding. I look at Ben like he's crazy and ask, Ben, are you sure about this? Ben affirms, hell yes, I've made up my mind. I'm tired of running and hiding from these terrors as if we're afraid of them. We're going to take the fight to them. Then he cautions, Liz, this means that both Jens and I will be carrying at the wedding. Liz yells, yippee. Thanks, Jens. I knew I could count on you. Liz disconnects, then Mira and Ira come over and Ira states her dismay. Mr. Blaine, I expected more logical thought from you. Ben holds up his hands, which silences the twins and declares, I don't want any arguments from either of you. I'm embarrassed as hell that we ran in the first place, and I'm done with it. If you don't want to continue to be our bodyguards, I will understand. Mira starts, Mr. Blaine, we have no desire. Ira continues, to terminate our position as your bodyguards. In fact, you will need us more than ever now. Mira continues, we will however provide security at Ms. Morgan's wedding. Ben says, great, I was hoping you wouldn't change your minds. Ben grabs the mic for the cab and orders, turn this rig around. We're headed back to our land in Leadville. Johnny asks, are you sure about this? Ben states, damn sure. I'm tired of running from the terrors, so I'm going to take the fight to them. We get another call on the communications system. This time it's Bernie. Bernie says, well, I'm not sure how to ask this. I tell him, well, just spit it out. Bernie asks, if Ben's still there, I was wondering if you would consider being my best man. Ben replies, no problem, Bernie, as long as I can wear my dress blues like I did at my wedding. Bernie says, thanks, Ben, and your Marine uniform will be fine. Present, Tom, heading back to the tunnels. I feel that my meeting with Inga went well, but it ended a little more physically than I anticipated. The kiss she gave me still lingered on my lips. I was thinking about it when my phone rang. I looked at it and asked, is something wrong? Johnny replied, I'm giving you notice that we're headed back to Leadville. I yell into the phone, what the hell is going on? Johnny replies, Ben said he's tired of running from the terrors and is going to take the fight to them. I swear, son of a bitch. All our plans just went to hell. Let me get to the tunnels, contact them, and try to talk them out of this foolishness. Until then, continue in the direction you're traveling. I floor it, and my Crown Victoria leaps like it remembers its days as a state patrol car. I make it to the cabin in record time, pull into the garage. I storm into the tunnels, march into the control room, and order, I want to talk to the trailer immediately. Gretchen says, no problem, Tom, but you could ask nicer. I apologize, sorry, I heard a rumor that Ben and Jennifer are headed back to Leadville. Gretchen smiles and says, yes, it's true. Isn't that great news? I frown and reply, well, they might have signed their death certificates. Gretchen says, here you go, Tom. The connection is established. I ask, is it true that I hear you guys are heading back to Leadville? Ben replies, that's right, Tom. It's not that we don't appreciate all you've done for us. Hell, this trailer is better than living in the tunnels, and we might continue to use it at the cabin if you don't mind. Tom, I killed these terrors in more than 2 countries, so it doesn't make sense for me to run from them in my own country. I'd rather die with my guns on than run from these worthless scumsuckers like a coward. We're coming back, and that's settled. I ask, is Jennifer more sensible about this? Jennifer answers, Tom, I totally support my husband on this decision. I can't believe what I am hearing. I am flabbergasted and ask, what about your bodyguards? Ira states, Tom, we realize this upsets your plan. However, we assess that the elimination of the terrors is a superior plan to that of running from them. Mira concurs, yes, Tom. While it will greatly increase the difficulty of our jobs, we relish the opportunity to totally terminate all the terrors so life might assume normality. Ben then says, Tom, I ordered our drivers to turn around, but they have yet to execute that order. If you try to keep me from coming back, we will vacate the trailer, buy a car, and drive back ourselves. I confess, yes, Ben, I did block your order. I will call the drivers and tell them to return. However, I'm not taking responsibility for this foolish act. Ben counters, Tom, don't get your panties in a bunch. Jennifer interrupts. Yeah, Tom, that's my job. The twins even comment, and of course our jobs. Ben swears, son of a bitch, let me finish you three. Of course this isn't your responsibility. It's a joint decision from the four of us, and whatever happens, happens. I leave them with one final caution. I hope that what happens isn't the case where shit happens. The four of them laugh, and I worry like hell. Present, Jens, Ben, and others, the trip home. I look at Ben, bite my lip and say, I think we really got Tom angry. Ira supports me. Yes, Mr. Blaine, I would say that he is extremely agitated at us. Ben smiles at the three of us and says, the only time I ran from these scumsuckers was when I got this. He held up his arm so we could see the incisions in it as he continues. I don't give a flying shit at a rolling donut if Tom is pissed at us. This is my decision, and this is what we're doing. Again, if any of you want out of this, you're free to go. I hug my man and affirm, Ben, I'm sure as heck not going anywhere. Mira says, Mr. Blaine, unlike my sister, I support your decision. Ira complains, Miranda, I also support Mr. Blaine's decision. I was simply commenting that Tom is agitated about the decision. Ben pats his belly and says, I sure hope I still fit into my dress blues. I love it when Ben takes charge of things because it excites me. So I wink at him and suggest, Ben, I think we need to check and see if you've gained any weight. Ben says, I remember the gay guy who fitted my dress blues to me. He made them so tight I thought I was going to pass out. I comment again, Ben, we should check to see if you've gained any weight. Then I nudge him. Mira embarrasses both of us when she barks, Mr. Blaine, your wife would like your attention in the bedroom. Ben says in a surprised voice, oh, okay, Jens. Let's head to the bedroom so you can check my weight. We check his weight twice. I'm lying in his arms and say, Ben, thank you for everything. Ben stupidly questions, everything like what? I rise up and ask, you mean you don't really know? Ben smiles at me and replies, Jens, I have no idea what you're talking about. I explain, well, I could enumerate things, like letting me be your spotter, finally finding you in Montana, and finally marrying me, but it's easier to just say that I'm so glad we're finally together. Ben asks a stupid question, so no regrets? I poke him and say, of course regrets. Regrets that we didn't do this sooner. Ben gets that strange faraway look in his eyes and says, Jens, we were destined to be together because there is a plan for our lives. Ben has piqued my curiosity, so I ask, Ben, what do you mean? But my Ben has fallen asleep, so the answer, if he gives it to me, will have to wait. Present, Samantha and Stacy, leaving the motorhome scene. My phone rings. I look at it and note it's Liz, so I answer, don't complain about the fight. She had it coming. Liz shocks me when she praises my actions. Sam, you did something I wish I would have done years ago. I'm calling because I have a new assignment for you 3 days from now. I'm a little puzzled, so I query, Liz, what's the assignment? Liz floors me when she says, Sam, I'm getting married and would like you to cover our wedding. I ask Liz, why such a short notice? Liz says, Bernie just told me about it today. The old sneak planned it all behind my back, with of course the help of a wedding planner. I love covering weddings. I'm still thinking about it when Liz further shocks me by saying, oh yeah, Ben and Jens are returning, so you might want to cover their return to Leadville. I shake my head and ask, Liz, are you sure about me doing a report on them? You know the terrors use my reports. Liz tells me, yes, Sam. Apparently they have all decided they are tired of running from the terrors. Ben actually said he was taking the fight to them, whatever that means. Perhaps you can find out what he means when you do your report. I tell Liz, well, we're finished here, so we're headed back to Leadville. Do I need to check in with you tonight? Liz says, not really, but it would be nice to get together tomorrow at the venue for the wedding and discuss the coverage. I ask, what's the venue? Liz says, the Delmonico Hotel Ballroom. I continue, what time would you like to meet? Liz says, Bernie has a meeting scheduled with the wedding planner for lunchtime. Does that work for you? I affirm, that's great. We'll see you for lunch tomorrow. I end the call, and Stacy asks. I listen to Samantha's call from Liz and think I figure something out, so I ask, Samantha, did Liz tell you something about Ben and his bitch? Samantha looks at me and replies, yes, she did, Stacy. Ben and his wife Jennifer are coming back to Leadville. I guess Ben is tired of running from the terrors. I complain, Samantha, please don't call her Ben's wife. Samantha challenges me. Stacy, you need to accept that Ben is legally married to Jennifer and will never marry you. I want to argue with Samantha, but decide to keep quiet for now. So instead I lie. Samantha, perhaps you're right. Perhaps it's time I move on. Samantha praises me. That's a great attitude to have. It's good to see you're finally getting better. We hug, and I continue with my plans. We walk back into the FBI building. Security calls the agent who helped us before. He comes down and escorts us to the helipad on the roof, and we're headed back to Leadville. Present, Tom, a conversation. With all my plans going to hell in a handbasket, I need some cheering up, so I decide to call Inga. She answers the phone and immediately gets defensive. Tom, what did you want? I honestly reply, Inga, don't be upset. I wanted to thank you for the nice cup of coffee we shared this afternoon. Inga replies, thank you, Tom. I enjoyed our time together also. I decide to ask, Inga, have you given any thought to coming back to the SIFs? Inga says, Tom, there are certainly parts of it I miss each day, but there are also parts that I'm glad to be away from. I don't feel I'm ready to come back to the SIFs yet. I continue to probe. Do you ever think you will be ready to come back to the SIFs? There's a pause while I assume Inga's thinking. Then she answers, possibly, just not right now. I'm having too much fun getting this restaurant going, and I sure as hell don't want to leave it high and dry. At least not until Stacy decides if we're going to expand it or not. I casually mention, I don't know if you've heard yet, but Ben and Jennifer are coming back. And when they get here, I will have more free time because I won't be in charge of the cabin rebuild. Inga hesitantly asks, Tom, do they realize what they are doing? The terrors will still be after them. I reply, they sure do. Ben said he's tired of running from them and wants to take the fight to them. Inga says, Tom, I am sorry about this because I know you worked very hard to get them away safely. I say, yeah, I did, and I'm going to catch some flack from SIFs over them coming back, but it's their decision to make. I'm beginning to get tired, so I say, it was great talking to you tonight, Inga. Sleep well. Inga says, thank you for the call, Tom. Have sweet dreams. But I don't have sweet dreams. I have terrible dreams about Ben and Jennifer getting killed by the terrors. Flashback, Masha, the evening. I rolled out a mat in the garage to protect us from the inevitable falls, and we had a very successful Krav Maga first lesson. As with many martial arts, how to fall correctly without getting hurt was the basis of much of the class. After the lesson, both Gwen and Louise complained about their backs hurting. I first had Gwen lie on the mat, checked her back, and asked, does your back bother you often? Gwen replied, yes, it does. How did you know? I replied, I feel an abnormality here and here. I lightly touched the locations as I gave her the information. Gwen said, Masha, those are the exact places my back hurts when it bothers me. I asked, Gwen, I can attempt to make your back better. It usually works, but sometimes it doesn't. Gwen anxiously said, Masha, please. If you can make my back feel better, I would be forever in your debt. I instructed, first, I need you on this weight bench. Gwen asked, face down or face up? I replied, face up. Gwen reclined on the weight bench. I positioned her correctly and then applied torsional force to her back. It cracked like small fireworks on the 12th of June, Russian Independence Day. Then I switched sides, again applied torsional force, and the other side of her back yielded similar results. Gwen stood up and remarked, Masha, my back has never felt better. I advised her, Gwen, my treatment is not yet complete. Please lie on the mat. Gwen lay on the mat, and I gave her a foot massage during which she fell asleep. Louise remarked, Masha, could you check my back? I checked Louise's back and remarked, Louise, your back is worse than Gwen's. Why is that so? Louise confessed, I had a hell of a time when I delivered Linda, and my back has given me trouble ever since then. I noted, I bet it hurts here and here. I touched the locations, and Louise jumped. Yes, Masha, those are the exact spots. I ordered, Louise, on the weight bench please, face up. Louise complied. I positioned her as well as I could on the weight bench. It really needed to be a wider bench. Correctly positioned her legs and performed the adjustment. Louise remarked, Masha, that feels so much better. I commented, now the other side. I adjusted the other side and then directed, on the mat for a foot massage. I gave Louise a foot massage, and like when she fell asleep. I left the girls sleeping and took the children into the house so they wouldn't disturb Gwen or Louise. Eventually they both came into the house, and Gwen said, Masha, I don't know where you learned to do that, but you are a miracle worker. My back feels perfect. I cautioned her, Gwen, your back will need many more treatments until it is completely healed. Louise asked, I assume it's the same for mine, Masha? I replied, of course, and Louise, your back will take even more treatments because it is worse. Louise remarked, I didn't know my bad Auntie Masha was a chiropractor. I questioned, what is a chiropractor? Flashback, Ben, in the striker. We climbed inside the striker after George provided the distraction, and I was shocked to see 4 other operatives who all had excellent and up-to-date weaponry. I looked at the main agent and demanded, "Who the hell are these guys?" He calmed me. "Sergeant Blaine, don't worry. They are our protection squad." The one obviously in charge said, "We heard that your enlistment contract is due to expire soon. We were wondering if you'd consider joining our ranks." I looked at them, then the agent, and laughed. What reason would I have to quit the Marines and join these stupid scumsucker heads? The leader threatened, "Watch your mouth, Sergeant." I asked, "Why the hell should I?" "You won't do anything to me until you find out if I'm going to join you." I looked at the agent in charge and said, "We will see how these mercs do. If I like them, I might consider joining them." The driver announced, "We're at the location of the building." The door opened, and we exited the striker. I immediately saw too many basic mistakes and made up my mind. There was no way I was becoming a merc with these scumsuckers. Hell, if I did, I would probably die in no time at all. They didn't establish the perimeter correctly, and the scumsuckers began to fire at us. I ordered, "You two over there, and you two take that area." Finally, we had a good perimeter, and they covered the agents as they exited the striker. Flashback, Jack, worried about Ben. I hated being cut out of the communication with Ben and wasn't sure what was going on. However, I was sure the CIA agents were going to offer Ben a hell of a job. I was sure they knew all about Ben's enlistment coming due, because they were supposed to know everything. And of course the scumsuckers, like sharks circling a wounded person, would try to swoop in for the kill. Worst of all, I had no way to contact Ben while he was on this mission. Finally, the aide found me and said, "Colonel Maggie would like to see you." I walked into her office and she said, "Sergeant Reynolds, you certainly dodged a bullet. Sergeant Blaine is back from his mission with the CIA." Of course, they offered him a position, which he wisely declined. However, he did tell me that he wanted to be the same rank as you. Now, do you have a problem with this? I didn't even think for a second when I said, "I have no problem at all with this. He deserves it." Colonel Maggie called her aide and ordered, "Draw up re-enlistment papers for Sergeant Blaine, increasing his rank by 2 stripes. The aide questioned, "Sir, are you?" She interrupted, "You heard my orders, now do it." Colonel Maggie turned her attention back to me and said, "Sergeant Reynolds, this is going to cost you the stripe I offered you earlier, and before you ask, you still need to work with Todd." I felt lucky to be getting off as easy as I was, so I said, "Yes, sir. I understand. I will go and begin working with Todd immediately." I left her office where once again Todd was waiting for me. Thank God this time he didn't trip over his own shoelaces. He addressed me, "Sir." I interrupted. "Son, you need to learn that you never call us sergeant, sir, because we work for a living. Instead, call us sergeant to SGT. He apologized. "Sorry, Sergeant, what are our plans for today?" I replied, "Todd, we're going to do a complete evaluation on you. I need to know your strong points and weak points." Todd meekly responded, "Sergeant, I'm not sure I have any strong points." It took all day, and when I finished I realized that Todd was right. He didn't have any strong points. Now I had a real problem because I needed to somehow mold Todd into a Marine. Flashback, Jennifer, finally. I finally finished all my food and felt much better. I never knew healing people was such hard work. I looked up and was surprised when grandmother walked in. She smiled and complimented me. "Good job, my granddaughter. I couldn't have done better myself. I always knew you would be an excellent little witch." I asked, "Grandmother, how did you know that?" She answered, "Jennifer, you have the same color eyes that all the healers in the family have." I asked, "Is that why Mother's eyes are a different color than mine?" Grandmother confirmed, "That's correct, my granddaughter. Now I need to be leaving because Glenn is coming back." Grandmother hugged me and kissed me on the cheek. I wish she could stay longer, but Mother would explode if she knew that grandmother had come for a visit. She no sooner left than Daddy walked in. He looked at my plate and teased, "Jennifer, I can't believe you ate all that food." I teased back with a little lie, "Daddy, I'm still a little hungry, do you think?" Daddy laughed and interrupted, "Jennifer, you should know better than to try to kid her." I changed the subject. "Daddy, how is Mother?" Daddy smiled at me and said, "Jennifer, she's fine, but they want to keep her here for some more tests." I was concerned and asked, "Tests for her heart? I thought the doctor said she was healed." Daddy replied, "They want to test her heart to see if they can figure out what happened." I could tell that Daddy didn't tell me everything, so I stamped my foot and complained, "Daddy, what aren't you telling me?" Daddy looked sad and said, "Jennifer, your mother might be having mental issues from her drinking." He rubbed his hand over his face and continued, "She swears that you and her mother are witches." I played it cool, giggled and replied, "Daddy, you should know by now that I am a little witch." Daddy smiled at me and praised my comment. "Jennifer, I'm happy to see that you can keep a sense of humor about it. Now come on, my little witch, let's go home." I reminded Daddy, "Did you forget that we came to the hospital in the ambulance? How are we going to get home?" Daddy teased, "Do you think you could fly us home on your broom?" I teased right back, "I could if one of us wasn't so fat." Daddy continued, "Well, if you keep eating like you just did, it won't be long until we're both the same size." Now I'll call a taxi to take us home. We arrived at home, and Daniela was at the door to meet us. Flashback, Alexei, morning. I'm not sure how long Father cried last night since my attention was diverted because it was so good to be home and back in my own bed. Father walked into my room, woke me up and announced, Alexei, it's time to go fishing. I noticed it was still dark outside, so I asked, what time is it? Father replied, it's 4 a.m. Remember that we're going fishing early because that's when all the fish bite. Now make sure you put on some warm clothes because it's cold outside. Then come to the kitchen for your breakfast. I put on my warmest clothes, including long underwear, walked into the kitchen, and Father had tried to make pancakes. I thanked him. Thank you, Father, for making the pancakes. He replied with a smile, yes, it's harder to make pancakes than it looks. I know they aren't very good, but I will become more proficient. We finished eating, went out to the garage, got into the car, and headed toward the river. Flashback, Ira and Mira, continuing. I swore, son of a female Saluki, all my clothing is wet. Mira agreed. Yes, sister, so is mine. Unfortunately, with the arrival of Kostia's men, we will not be able to start a fire and dry them. I decided, Mira, then we need to eliminate these men and acquire their accoutrements. You exit the cave first while I provide cover for you. As Mira left the cave, there are several shots fired at her. I marked their locations and began to return fire. Quickly, Kostia had now lost another 3 henchmen. Mira and I traversed to their location, liberated their weapons and ammunition along with their outer jackets. Once we are clothed, we discarded the bodies into the stream and watched them float away. We proceeded back to the cave, and Mira said, there are rations in this outer accoutrement. I checked mine, found matching rations, and suggested, we need to dry our inner accoutrements and partake of this newly discovered feast. We started a small fire, commenced to dry our inner accoutrements, sat upon the outer accoutrements, and partook of the excellent repast of dried fish. Flashback, Todd, on the mission. After watching the supposed sensei, I decided that if talking was a martial art, he would have been excellent. However, his demonstration left much to be desired. He finished and asked me, how do you rate my teaching methods? I grinned at him, held out my hand, and gave him the thumbs down. He challenged me, if you think you could do better, join me on the mat. I stepped onto the mat. We both bowed to each other, and I kicked his butt all over the mat. He finally submitted. Enough? I didn't know you were a martial arts master. What degree of black belt are you? I shrugged my shoulders, motioned to Roberto, and we headed back to the house. When we arrived, I pulled out my tablet and wrote, Roberto, I would appreciate it if you could drop by after work and teach Maria and Gail martial arts. Roberto said, Todd, I am not as good as you are. I smiled at him and wrote, I'm sure you're better than the supposed sensei at the gym. Just then Maria and Gail came down the stairs, and they still had on their bikinis. My eyes practically popped out of my head, and I signed, I don't ever want you two leaving the house in those bikinis. Gail signed, see Maria, I told you that Todd would hate these. It's a good thing we also bought one-piece swimsuits. I signed a complaint, so you wasted money on these? Maria laughed and said, from the look on your face, I would say the money was not wasted. Roberto laughed and said, I hate to say this, but I need to get going. Todd, I will bring the thing for the panic room tomorrow after work and install it. I signed and Maria translated, Todd wants to know if you need any money? Roberto replied, you can pay me tomorrow after we install it. He left and Maria asked, Todd, what are you putting in the panic room? I replied, a gun cabinet that will hold some rifles and pistols. Gail signed, Todd, will you teach us how to shoot? I replied, of course. Roberto knows a gun range that we can use. Gail asked, when can we start? I replied, I'm not sure because it depends on Roberto's schedule. He's also going to stop by after work and teach both of you martial arts. Maria asked, I thought they had a martial arts teacher at the gym. I signed, you mean the one I threw all over the mat? He's not fit to teach anyone martial arts. Now will you two put on more clothes? Those bikinis are indecent. They both giggled and ran upstairs as I walked into the kitchen and decided to make some coffee. Present, Ben, Jens, and others, the trip. I had a hell of a nap, and when I wake up, I find Jens is still asleep. I slowly extricate myself from her arms, slip out of bed, find my underwear and clothes, and put them back on. I look at Jens, sleeping in the bed, and realize I'm the luckiest man in the world. I've married an incredibly beautiful woman who actually wants sex more than I do. I make sure to cover her up after ogling her incredibly hot body and head out into the main area. I pick up the mic to the cab, call and ask, when are we going to be in Leadville? Johnny replies, Ben, first we have to stop and change vehicles. I get angry and demand, what the hell do you mean? Why wasn't I told about this? Ira walks up and explains, Mr. Blaine, they did notify us. However, because you were in the sanctity of your bedroom, we did not want to disturb you for the purpose of notification of the changes. Johnny provides additional information. Ben, We need to change vehicles so that no one knows about our switch because we perform this service occasionally and need to keep it a secret. Sorry, it's orders from the big bosses. Unlike leaving the cabin, I'm not concerned this time about the terrors. I notice gun cases and drag bags on the floor, look at Ira and comment, "It looks like you have been busy." Ira replies, "Yes, Mr. Blaine. We are ready to transfer some of our weapons to the awaiting van vehicle. The remainder we will acquire over the next several days." I look at the cases and say, "It looks like your PSG-1s are coming with us." Then I taunt, "Too bad they don't make those in a better caliber, such as .338 Lapua." Ira surprises me when she replies, "Mr. Blaine, we have asked Heckler & Koch to manufacture them in 8.6 by 70 mm caliber, but we're told the retooling cost would be prohibitive." I of course recognize the metric caliber designation and realize that she is probably correct. Only the Alexander Arms Ulfbert really works with the .338 round reliably. Thinking about that gives me an idea. My thoughts are interrupted when Jens wanders out of our bedroom and complains, "Hey, it got cold in the bed without you." Mira arrives and announces, "Ms. Blaine, it is good you have awakened because we need to move the weapons to another vehicle." Jens hugs me and says, "Oh well, all good things must come to an end." Then she asks, "Where are we?" I reply, "The hell if I know." Jens calls the cab and asks, "Where the hell are we and when do we switch vehicles?" Johnny replies, "We're 2 hours from the location where we are switching vehicles." Jens announces, "Good, I think I will take a shower." Ira insults Jens, "Yes, Ms. Blaine, a shower would be good for you because you are odoriferous." Jens begins to get upset and I suggest, "How about I join you in the shower?" Mira then insults me, "Yes, Mr. Blaine, you also are odoriferous." I challenge them both, "Keep it up, girls, and I will kick your butts in martial arts again." Before they can reply, Jens and I head for the shower. Jens still complains, "Ben, I really don't stink, do I?" I toss her into the shower, turn on the cold water, and laugh. "Not anymore, you don't." Jens grabs me, pulls me into the cold shower, and I complain, "Damn, that's cold." Jens looks down, laughs, and says, "I guess my best friend doesn't like cold water." I ask, "Your best friend?" Jens grabs me and says, "Yes, this is my best friend, but he's so small now." I complain, "Jens, be careful who you're calling small, otherwise your best friend might go into seclusion, and have you never heard of cold water shrinkage?" I reach over, turn on the hot water, and Jens' best friend doesn't remain small for very long. We're drying off when we hear a change in the noise of the semi. There's a knock on the door and Ira announces, "Mr. and Mrs. Blaine, we need to translocate to a different vehicle." Jens complains, "Shoot, I didn't bring any clean clothes in here with me." I reply, "Neither did I, but don't worry because you look sexy as hell wrapped in a towel." Jens playfully threatens, "Ben, keep it up and we will need another shower." I tease right back, "Jens, I think your best friend needs a rest before I can keep it up again." Jens wraps up in a towel and proves I wasn't lying. She is one sexy woman. I wrap a towel around my waist. We open the door and dash into the bedroom. Ira complains on our way across the trailer, "Please don't copulate it this time, since it will only ensure we will be late." I tease, "Just for that we might not come out for a couple of days." Ira continues, "You two spend entirely too many hours in your bedroom." Jens got in a barb. "Hey, I waited for frickin' ever for this, so I don't really care." We make it to the bedroom, start to dress, and Jens complains, "Ben, are you going to watch me or get dressed?" I complain, "Jens, sometimes you're no fun." She sexily walks toward me and asks, "What about other times?" Mira bangs on the door and ruins the mood by saying, "Mr. and Mrs. Blaine, they are opening the back door." Jens orders, "Ben, stop ogling me and get dressed." And of course I get dressed before she does. I clear my throat and ask, "Are you planning on getting dressed anytime this century?" Jens asks, "How in the heck did you get dressed before I did?" I taunt, "Many years of practice." Jens makes the mistake of asking, "What? You're not that much older than I am?" I grin at her and drop the hammer. "No, but when you have to get dressed before the husband comes home, you learn some shortcuts." Jens glares at me but then laughs, "Ben, I know better than that. I know for a fact you never dated a married woman." I slap her butt and tease, "Oh yeah? I'm dating you, aren't I?" We hear the back door of the trailer open, come out of the bedroom, and see Mira and Ira have already began to move the guns to a waiting van. We run over, grab some weapons and help. Johnny hops inside the trailer and says, "You guys need to clear all your stuff out of here in 3 days. We have another assignment and need to be on our way." Jens says, "That's too bad. We were hoping we could use it at the cabin. We have everything in the van." Johnny hands me the keys and says, "Thanks guys, you were great." I reply, "You guys were awesome too. Good hunting." I climb into the van and start it up. We pull outside. I realize we're in Denver, so I start to head toward Leadville. Present, Tom, at the cabin. I get a call from Johnny, and he says, "Tom, the handoff went great. They are in the van headed your way." I exit my room and head toward the control room to inform Gretchen. I want her to get the drones flying again. I still couldn't believe Ben, Jennifer, and the twins. They really screwed up my plans, and I was in hot water with SIFs. They didn't like allocating a resource like the semi and trailer and then having it end so quickly. I walk into the control room and announce, they are headed back here in a white panel van. Gretchen says, no problem. I will put the drones on patrol, then notify the front gate, the roving patrols, and the sniper. Yeah, I had seriously beefed up security when they left and was glad now that I did. I thought of something and suggested, you might want to call Jennifer and warn her about the new security measures and make sure she tells the twins about it. I don't want them going off half-cocked and killing anyone. Gretchen says, sorry, Tom, I can't do that. We ditched all their mobile phones because we weren't sure if the terrors were using them to track them. I swore, shit. Why didn't you tell me about this? Okay, I guess I will meet them at the gate. It's cold out tonight, so I go to the garage, get in my car, drive through the front gate, and wait for them on the road. Present, Samantha and Stacy, back at Stacy's offices. I'm in my room when my mobile phone rings. It's Liz, so I ask, hey Liz, what's up now? Liz says, Sam, Ben, and Jens will be in tonight, and it might be good to do a report with them. Jens will be at the lunch tomorrow, so perhaps you could kill two birds with one stone. I question, Liz, with the terrors using my reports, are you sure this is wise? Liz confides, yes, Sam, it is. From what I heard talking to them, I think they have some choice things to say. I ask, do you think Ben will be there? Liz says, Sam, I don't think Jens is going anywhere without Ben and the twins. It would be a good chance to interview them all. I reply, okay, Liz, I sure don't want to cause them any more troubles. Liz says, Sam, they're not running anymore, so I don't think it will make any difference. I hang up my phone and begin to work on the questions I want to ask them. I was so glad that I had blue bugged. Blue bugging manipulates a target phone into compromising its security to create a backdoor attack before returning control of the phone to its owner. Once control of a phone has been established, it is used to call back the hacker, who is then able to listen in to conversations. The Bluebug program also has the capability to create a call forwarding application whereby the hacker receives calls intended for the target phone. Samantha's mobile phone. When she talked to Liz, her phone automatically connected to my mobile phone, and I heard everything that was said. Now I had the information I needed to implement my plan. I took out a different burner mobile phone and placed a phone call to. Yes, my new plan was proceeding better than I had hoped for. No, I was never going to attack Ben directly again. That was a huge mistake on my part. However, his bitch was fair game, especially since my research turned up that she was an honest-to-God witch. Now it all made sense. She had bewitched my Ben. Present, Ben, Jens, and others, at the cabin. We approach the cabin, and I say, that looks like Tom's Crown Victoria in the road. Jens agrees. Yes, I think that it is. Ira commands Mr. Blaine to not approach any closer. We need to verify that Tom is in the vehicle. Tom exits the vehicle and gives me the all-clear sign, then motions to me. I command, Ira, that's Tom. He's provided the all-clear signal and wants to talk. Ira states, Mr. Blaine, I will accompany you. Mira, please keep Ms. Blaine under your protection. We exit the van, walk toward Tom, and he complains, damn you. You ruined a perfectly good plan. I grin at him and say, Tom, I'm not running from these scumsuckers anymore. Now why are you here? Tom begins to provide crucial information. Ben, I'm letting you know that. Ira interrupts by pushing me to the side, trains her weapon on the hill, and says, sniper on the hill. Tom yells, you stupid bitch. Don't fire. This is why I stopped you. Now we at all times have a sniper on the hill, roving patrols, and 4 guards at the guardhouse. Ira complains, Tom, you will have to pay a price for the name you called me. And you are lucky that I did not remove the sniper on the hill. Tom further complains, well, if you had mobile phones I could have called you, but Gretchen destroyed them. By the way, the 2 teenage bitches finally stopped itching and returned here. I wasn't sure what you wanted done with them, so they are sharing a room with Alexei. Ira confronts Tom. You let them share a room with our brother? Tom gives further explanation, not at first. I gave Zarika and Yasmin their own rooms. Zarika lasted about a day until she moved in with Alexei, then in 2 more days, Yasmin joined them. Ira complains, Tom, do you know if Alexei is copulating with Yasmin? Tom shrugs his shoulders and says, does it really matter how many of them he knocks up? It's cold as a well diggers, but out here, I'm heading back to the tunnels. We walk back to the van. Notice that Mira also has her PSG-1 trained on the sniper on the hill, and Ira states, Mr. Blaine, Ira, and I will work with the snipers to make sure they are not so obviously seen. Then she commands, Mira, Tom instituted more security measures, and the sniper is one of them. Also, the terrible teenagers are back and abide in Alexei's room. Jens says, good, I want to have a talk with those 2. We climb into the van, follow Tom through the gate, and I remark, damn. Tom has reinforced the gate further. Jens says, Ben, I was concerned when Mira bailed out of the van with her rifle. I ask, Jens, are you having second thoughts about our decision? Jens takes my hand and says, not now. She points, and I see Destiny, in her wolf form, pacing the van into our compound. We pull into the garage following Tom, who is already inside. We grab our weapons, prepare to take them to the weapons room, and Ira says, Mr. Blaine, Mira, and I desire to keep the PSG-1S with our corporeal selves. Jens adds, Ben, it's probably a good idea if we keep a rifle in our room too. I agree. You three are absolutely correct. Jens, select your poison. Mira queries, Mr. Blaine, why would Ms. Blaine select poison at this time instead of a more suitable weapon? Jens explains, Mira, select your poison means I get to choose the weapons. Mira complains, in this time of heightened risk, the cessation of stupid euphemisms would be preferable to a tragic misunderstanding. I grin at Mira and say, Mira, you and your cessation of euphemisms can take a flying shit at a rolling donut. Mira grins and taunts, Mr. Blaine, I do not possess a training tool with which to violate a rolling pastry tire. Jens wisely selects an M4 and AM-1014, M1014, an Italian semi-automatic shotgun manufactured by Benelli, shotgun in their drag bags. She checks to make sure there's plenty of ammunition for each and says, Ben, I want to stop by and see Liz before we head to our bedroom. Ira and Mira say, we would also like to verify that Alexei is still healed and to see if Safia has downloaded the fetus yet. I tell them, well, I need to see if I still fit into my dress blues, so you three have fun. I head into our bedroom as the other three take off. I walk up to Liz's room, knock on the door and announce, Liz, your maid of honor is here. Liz flings the door open, hugs me, and says, Jens, you really came back. I hug her in return and reply, of course I did. I told you I would be here, and now I'm here. We walk into the room and Liz tells me, Jens, I know it's short notice, but we're meeting with the wedding planner tomorrow for lunch. I smile at Liz and say, don't worry, Liz, I will be there too. Where will the meeting be? Liz replies, the wedding is at the Delmonico Hotel ballroom, and lunch is in their restaurant. I tell Liz, I have no idea what I'm wearing to the wedding. Bernie walks over and replies, thanks Jens for being here, and don't worry, the wedding designer has a beautiful dress for you. I tease, and what about Sharik? Does he have a pretty bow to wear? Bernie looks startled and apologizes. Jens, we didn't think that we would have animals in our wedding. There's a frantic scratching at the door, and I say, I think Sharik finally knows I'm back. And don't worry, Bernie, I was just teasing you. Liz says, Jens, Sharik was distraught over you leaving without him. He wouldn't eat, not even Mabel's food. I open the door, Sharik bounds into the room, then begins to jump up and down doing his little doggy dance. I sit on the floor and give him some love. Then he lies down with his head on my lap and falls asleep. I whisper, wow, he's really tired. Liz complains, yeah, he's been howling almost all night, every night since you've been gone. Then Liz teases, I can tell by the look in her eyes. I'm not sure who loves you more, Sharik or Ben. I laugh softly, so as not to wake Sharik, and say, Liz, we both know that Ben loves me more. But, well, a good dog's love, like Sharik's, is unconditional. Liz boldly says, you know, I think men could learn something from dogs. Bernie laughs and teases, you mean like peeing on everything and digging up the houseplants? Liz laughs, I stand corrected. I ask, so what time are we leaving tomorrow? Liz says, Jens, it's probably better if we take 2 vehicles and meet there. I realize that Liz is concerned about the terrors, so I agree. Yeah, you're probably right. I get up, which wakens Sharik, and we leave the room. Sharik dances his little doggy dance, and I ask, I heard you didn't eat. Are you hungry? He takes off for the kitchen, and I follow him. Dear listeners, next part of the story will be released soon. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.